We're live.
And we are back, episode 14, the fitness podcast. Emily, Cornell, and myself, Nathan, ready to dive deep into some topics this week. Emily has commandeered a flat this week in central London, and she's been showing us around, which is a really, really nice place. So, how's the bachelor
Virtually,
pad?
that is. Virtually, that is.
Yeah,
'cause,
virtually.
we don't want to fine in a minute.
Yeah. How's the bachelor pad?
It's very, very much my dream flat. So I feel extremely privileged to be here right now. I'm enjoying hibernating and social distancing, like for real. So yeah, no, it's really nice. I've been really lucky. Obviously, with my issues of not coming home for Christmas, I've been moving around, and a client offered me to stay here for the week. So yeah, but I'm going back on Sunday. So hopefully I'm going back on Sunday. It looks like some flights are still entering Sweden now. So yeah, feeling good.
Sweden said we're going to let Emily in, and then the rest of you lot can bugger off.
Yeah. Well,
Are you excited to go back, or do you want to stay in London?
I mean, I could stay in this flat until I die, I think. But I think I put my thoughts of going back a little bit on hold. So I feel very much detached from Sweden right now, but I know that I've been wanting to go there since Christmas. So it's going to be super nice. Obviously, it's going to be a huge transition going back to living with people. But it's snowing, and eventually after a week of isolation, I get to go back to the gym, which is like I am so ready. I'm so ready because I told that obviously Canal, like I've trained probably 3 times since lockdown. And so it hasn't been great, but I've been doing a lot more proactive stuff in terms of business, in terms of mobility stuff, and also working with an osteopath on some issues that I have with my foot and hip. So I have been doing things, just not following a program and like sweating every day. So yeah.
I forget that Sweden is not in lockdown right now.
Never been, never have been. You have to wear a face mask on the tube now, which is like a big thing. People are raging about it. So yeah, no, it was never a lockdown in Sweden. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to be able to like see my friends and going for walks and hug people, because my social circle is really small anyways. Like it's like 2 people and they're a couple. So like it's not a massive thing, but it's just nice to be able to like make plans and go home to someone else and just go like a dinner together or playing some board games. So yeah, I look forward to it.
So gyms didn't close down, right, over there?
No, they obviously put in more restrictions. They can only allow in, I think, 1 person per 10 square meter or something. So it's obviously restricted, but it's not closed down. So yeah, but it's because the government there don't have they don't have the right to close down businesses. It's a constitutional law, so the government actually haven't been able to, and this is why it was never a lockdown, because for constitutional rights, they just haven't been able to. So yeah, but they're doing obviously restrictive things and common sense, I think.
Fair enough. Nate, how's 2021 been like for you? How's the start?
Yeah, really good actually. Got up to a belter. I had some time off over Christmas, which helped massively. But things are going really well. Got new coaches on board of autonomy, which is sweet. And just building that, we've kind of just been doing the same stuff really. Ferenca's here for 2 weeks, so it's nice, and the dog is the dog. So it's do you know what? It's like when people say to you, oh, how's everything going? It's just like it's the same shit as it was last year, or it's the same weeks, and we're not doing anything. I'm trying now that Dubai is missed on the corridor or whatever that is. We were going to go out and go on holiday in March, but it looks like we're probably not going to do that now. We'll probably just see what's available when we get there. Like I've got a week booked off at the end of March. I'm just going to see what happens the week before, and just if we can get out, we'll get out and just leave the dog at mum and dad's. And just get out somewhere, even if we have to quarantine when we come back. But the reality is we're doing that anyway, so we just need to get out, because the mundane is the mundane, which is fine. I don't mind the routine, but I'd also like a breakaway with some sunshine, some vitamin D would be nice.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I got asked this question in my check-in actually yesterday. It's like, what's been different from first lockdown to this lockdown, apart from actually now running a business? nothing much has changed for, I don't think, any of us, to be honest, because to be honest, we're all blessed to be working. I think that's number one.
Yeah.
We're blessed to be, changing people's lives even during this time, and people are trusting us to, you know, part exchange business basically, and say, hey, can you help me out get in the best shape? And obviously it's possible. uh, but yeah, I think for all of us, like, I know for me 2021 has been okay, but it still feels very much the same as 2020. Like, things don't look that different. And I think we mentioned this in our podcast a couple of times, like towards the end we just said, look, 2021 may not even change that much, especially in the very beginning, because, and just brace yourself, like, not going to get like a massive change, to be honest, anyway. So yeah, I think for me personally, it's been good. It's been busy. I think that's one thing I would suggest for anyone, is trying to be as busy as you can, whether it's new hobbies, because obviously lack of routine and lack of not doing anything can drive you insane. So if you're reading or listening to podcasts right now, and listen to our podcast, you're thinking, what can I actually do on my day to day? I would suggest something like, starting something new, like a hobby. It could be anything. If especially on furlough, especially if you're like, you haven't got a job at the moment and you're just like, what do I do? um, Try and do something about it, in my opinion. And talking about, like, you know, depressing stuff, Nate, you obviously mentioned the start of the podcast, Blue Monday. I actually didn't know what Blue Monday was until I had to do a quick Google search. Would you like to explain it to the viewers?
Yeah, I didn't know either until this morning too. I just got an email from my admin guy who said, it's Blue Monday on something on Monday. Do you want to do like a post or something like that, like a mental health awareness stuff? And anyway, so apparently, what I've seen, Blue Monday is a PR stunt effectively, but they put it as it being the most depressing day of the year, in where people have a dissatisfaction from their New Year's resolutions already, and then the general doom and gloom starts to set in after the hype of like Christmas, and then there's the element of like most people go away towards March or have their holidays towards later in the year. So it's just a bit of a doom and gloom, disappointing type of year. I don't know how they got it, but it's all about trying to for the people that made it anyway. It's all about making awareness to mental health and how can you get better mental health uh, after Blue Monday, effectively.
That's interesting. I mean, to be honest, in England, Blue Monday was flipping last Monday. As soon as lockdown got announced, everyone's like, "Yeah, this is the worst thing to happen in the world, etc." And you can start to see the effects of that kind of right now, with more and more people just kind of, I wouldn't say giving up, but just like, "Oh, here we go again." So it's interesting with that Blue Monday stuff. Never heard of it until, like, you mentioned it, but like it says here, it was part of a 2005 press release from a holiday company. So it's mainly just to promote holidays, because obviously I'm guessing holidays kind of die down in January and then they kind of go back up again in March, April time. So smart, but also I don't know how, if I've not heard of it since 2005, they've done a shit job, to be honest. 15 years and no one's heard of it until now, right?
I can't believe 2005 is 15 years ago. I finished school.
No, more than
I think
15
I
years
finished
ago
school.
now.
16
Yeah,
years ago.
16 years.
Yeah,
I finished
16.
school in 2005, I think. Or
Yep.
started school. I started school. Shit.
Jesus Christ. You're old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So in line with Blue Mondays, then, what are you utilizing currently to stay on top of your mental health, or giving what are you doing with your clients to make sure that they stay on top of their mental health?
Number one, I'd say stay connected. Like, staying connected with friends and family, I think, is very, very important. I think you mentioned a couple of things, a couple of podcasts ago, about traveling and being loopy. And I think it was one of those cases of, like, you may have not been connected with, in time zones, etc. So you're not just connected, you're on your own. You may not speak to anyone for the whole day. I remember you actually mentioned it a couple of times to me. You're like, fuck me, you're the first person I spoke to in 2 days time, in 2 days. Or so that can get into your head, and you can also get into your head quite a lot. So I would actually suggest, number one, staying connected. Obviously I'm quite good at this anyway, generally, but I would suggest for most people anyway, like, in the very beginning, maybe like, let me just not connect with people because I want my own space. But generally, you'll see, you'll miss the human connection. So for me, it is staying connected.
Yeah, I think also something that works for me, and I know it works for anyone, is like helping others, like reaching out to others, not for the sake of your own health, but actually to an act of kindness to someone else will make you feel better. So whether that is reaching out saying, hey, how's it going, or I've been thinking about you for this, or I had a dream and you popped in, or actually reaching out to other people, making them feel better will make you feel better as well. Like, so act of kindness, I think, actually is a really good thing. I'm the opposite. I like to just like, fuck off world, I'm closing the doors. Like, I can go AWOL for a long time if I could, but then I mean, I do miss human connection, but for me it's more important to have that physical thing. So if I don't have that, I can disconnect and be in my own head and bubble and just go, cool, I'm pretty good here. But I do miss the physical stuff, which is actually a really hard thing. um, but for me it's more understanding that it's not always about me. Like, I have to make sure that my parents know that I'm okay. I need to reach out to my best friends because that's kind of what a friend do. So it's for me, it's just about like taking myself out of the equation and focusing on other people. And I think what we do in our line of work, obviously, what I just said, like making other people feel good, that's what we do for a living. So I don't think that, yeah, for this reason, I don't think I struggle. But if I didn't do what I do for a living, if my job was to just sell or to just come up with a new product, like maybe it would be different. But because I every day have to make sure that people are feeling good, I actually feel good. So, yeah.
Actually, I find it difficult. I don't know. I go through waves, and I feel like sometimes I feel it's really hard to connect, but it's more like it's not other people. It's definitely just my own perception of where I am. Like sometimes I'm like when I get super overwhelmed, I'm always like I go into a shell and I just stay in my own lane, do anything, don't speak to anybody. Just like you do your WhatsApps, you do your Instagrams, but like don't reach out to anybody new, and you just don't do any more stuff. You just go around in that perpetual cycle. I often find that when I'm in the mornings or before I've dealt with lots of other people, I'm more receptive to having a chat or a conversation about myself. And that's why when I have my I go to like I train with my one of my best mates, and in the mornings like I can speak for hours about my day or speak about his day. But then by the end of the day, 6 p.m. comes, I'm just like, you spoke to so many people, and you've helped so many people. I feel like I can't express anymore. So I've always found that when I PT'd as well, like I was fantastic at helping other people, but when it came to myself, because I was kind of fatigued out of talking or
Conversations. Yeah.
yeah, just fatigued out of, and especially when you meet people face to face, that physical element, like helping people, you see how their faces are, you see their emotions of like they lose another kilo, and you see that too, and you absorb that too. By the end of the day, you've absorbed so many emotions and stuff. You're like, it's very hard to get your own out because you've been absorbing so many things from other people. Um, so I know that a lot of people will probably feel like that too in their own line of work. Like they'll probably be absorbing negative energy, negative people saying, oh, this, that, and the other, and then they come to the end of the day and you're so fatigued by the absorbed how much you've absorbed from people that you can't actually then do it yourself. But actually, 2 weeks ago, actually, no, sorry, yeah, 2 weeks ago, I spoke to a therapist, a counselor, did some CBT, and that was a completely different ball game compared to like even just chatting around with your mates and stuff. Because simply they know the questions to ask to open you right up, and I think sometimes you need that. And that was in the evening, and that was something that I'd never experienced before. It was a Monday. I'd spoke to the most people I do all week on a Monday. I was tired, and then I was like, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I ended up speaking to this lady, and it took like 3 questions, and I was there babbling on for an hour. So also don't underestimate the element of like going to seek professionals in like opening up and counselling and stuff like that. I think um, sometimes we, like I just said, you can get trapped in your own ways. You can absorb so much information that you don't want to feel like you want to talk, but you need to, and it's that need as opposed to want. So whether that was a
Uh,
bit of a tangent or what, but like, have you guys had any? I know you've done a lot of it before, but how did you find the difference between probably like self talk and then someone like prying you open in a metaphorical term?
So obviously I've done a lot of studying in terms of like NLP mindset, subconscious mind, and all of these things. So I obviously take other people through that process, but there is a difference between knowing and going through it yourself, because you will never be as objective to yourself as someone else can be. I still have a coach. I haven't spoken to him since early December, but I'll speak to him next week. And I don't know what we're going to tap into, but whatever we do, it helps me in my business, even though it doesn't necessarily always, it's not always tied to the business, it's tied to my limitations in my mindset or my limiting beliefs or my past shit that I need to deal with, which is actually the thing that's stopping me in other areas. So it's definitely it's definitely valuable to have someone that you work with, because we often see that we have these problems and we think that we know what the problem is, but the problem is usually something completely different. So um, yeah, I don't know what to say, but like even though I feel like I'm pretty solid in myself, I know who I am. I've done so much work. I've done so much work. I still see the value of having someone that you kind of check in with to just unravel, because there's never going to be no work for you to do on yourself. It's always going to be there. You're never going to go like, right, I made it, I'm in like, I don't know, freaking, I'm in Eden, you know.
And I've ascended.
Huh?
I've ascended.
Yeah, exactly. But you keep working on ascending, right? And I feel like if
Yep.
I look back in my last 2 years, my God, have I ascended? Like I'm in a whole different mind shift space. Like if I look back down at where I was, I never thought I was in a bad place. But then I realized, my God, have I learned so much about myself and how I apply that to my clients and how I apply that to life in general, to relationships, to communication as a whole. So yeah, there's so much learning to be had by someone who can take you through that journey by asking the right questions, by challenging what you believe in, because all that we do is telling ourselves stories. So if we challenge the story, we can challenge the life and we can change something. So yeah, and it's really hard to do that on yourself, really hard, because it's your story, because you repeat that story. So sometimes you need someone to go like, right, what if there is a different solution here? What if there is a different reality here? And what would it be like if we looked into that reality for a second? So yeah, don't know where I went with that, but you know.
No, I mean you're right though, because as humans we're quite excuse me, we're quite biased within our own decisions or what we're doing in a day-to-day basis. Like if you look at it from a fitness viewpoint, how many people are biased with like my fitness pal? So they'll be like, actually I've used this, but I forgot to log certain things because I want to shine myself in the best light possible. So we would do the same thing until you speak to an unbiased person. Obviously Nate speaking to a therapist, which I think is brave. I wouldn't say it's brave, but it's compared to like 5-10 years ago. Like, how many young people were actually going to see therapists? I mean, because
How many young men?
or young men or young people in general, men and women,
Yeah, but mainly men. Mainly
mainly
men.
men. Yeah, I mean, men are talking more, which is quite
Have
cool
no
now.
therapy. Period.
Yeah.
Like period. Especially if there's Blue Monday, consider it. You know, give yourself a treat. If you're feeling low on Monday when you have heard this podcast, if you need help, just actually reach out for it. So
Because if you don't ask for it, you don't get. And like it's just it's very 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 difficult to get out of that mindset, and it's confirmation bias, right? So example of it this morning, I didn't know. I ordered I had on a pedestal Tesla. I thought Tesla was like a pedestal of cars. I'd never seen any bad reviews about one, and I always thought, Tesla are amazing. Like not a shit wrong with them. Like they drive themselves for fuck's sake, and they've got like a horn that is like Chameleonaire. We see we rolling. Like you can change your horn to ride and dirty, right? So I'm thinking the best cars in the world. But I didn't know, and I got informed this morning from someone that did know that they had lots and lots of faults and lots of ways that people were cutting off halfway down the motorway at 70 miles an hour because the battery was going completely. And that's just confirmation bias. I've not been in that circle to know of those specific things. And it's that whole sentiment, if you don't know, you don't know. And because the internet and because of the circles that we place ourselves in circles of people that have like-minded viewpoints, and we search for information subconsciously that will confirm our already ideas. So if we already know that, everything that we search for, or everything, unless you're searching for the opposite, you're going to seek what you find. Even if it's right or whether it's wrong, you're going to find that. So if you can effectively seek the opposite of what you're currently doing, you'll be able to find more of a mid ground. It's like the whole thing, when you take yourself to the extremes on one end of the other spectrum, you get to see more part of the spectrum, and that gives you more context. If you stay on one end of the spectrum, you're never going to know what it's like to be on the other end, and never know what it's like to be anywhere across that spectrum either. So if you're completely like pro ketogenic diets, and that's all that you've ever done before, you'll connect yourself with the keto group, you'll connect yourself with people who already do it. It's a social circle. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you will not really take into consideration anybody that is just like eating normally, or not eating cheese, or not eating lots and lots of fat. And that confirmation bias will just be done subconsciously, because no one wants to feel uncomfortable, or be in a position where their thoughts or their beliefs are challenged, because that's where the uncomfortable nature comes, and we all want to have an easy path. So being able to challenge your own self, but thought wise, but then know where to go with it, is probably very, very important. I spent a lot of time journaling and understanding stuff, but I know for myself, I can journal as much as I want to, but I'm not going to get to the same level of depth that someone objectively will, because like I only journal in a really shit place. I'll do journaling, and I'll have to be in deep holes to walk towards it, because when I get to a certain point, I'm okay, I'm conscious, I'm thoughtful, but then I just don't have that next layer to just continue going. It's more for me a downer. Like I just do it when it brings me up. But to get me to that next level, I need that accountability to be like, what are the questions that I need to ask myself? And by someone else asking those questions to me, I can then ascend to that next level. So maybe next time I'm in a bit of a shit place and I can journal, I can ask the same stuff that she was asking me to move to that next level. It's like, if you're not following your diet, but you're just like, oh yeah, I just don't have enough willpower. But then a coach says to you, oh, but did you eat breakfast on that day? No wonder you were having snacks in the evening, because you didn't have breakfast. And you previously thought that it was because you didn't have enough willpower, that you couldn't last the evening snacks. But actually, a coach has come objectively and said, well, actually, you're being a bit of a dummy because you didn't have any breakfast, so no wonder you're going to be hungry. It's that objective eye, so that next time you come around, you don't need a coach to tell you that it was because you didn't have breakfast. You already kind of ascended in that manner. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does, and because it's unbiased from their viewpoint, because they don't know you. So, for example, if I was speaking to you, I'm like, I know Nate for the last couple of years, it would still be a different level of questioning. So it wouldn't be exactly the same thing. And again, how was the session in a way? Was it online? Was it in person?
Phone call.
Phone call. Wow.
I chose a phone call probably because I didn't feel comfortable sitting in front of Zoom telling my life story. I liked the fact that I was like standing up and I was on the phone. I had my headphones in. I was able to like walk around and kind of get the nervous energy out, because it was quite nervous. I was like, she's asking me about loads of random stuff, and I'm just like, when someone says, "Oh yeah, how do you feel about that?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I just did it. I just did," and rather than think. And then it was all that type of stuff. So I took it on the phone, because I think anything with like a face-to-face element adds another layer of like, is that person judging me? Because I'm looking at eye contact, seeing if she's like disappointed in what I'm saying, or I'm like trying to appease what she's saying. Like, so I didn't want to kind of confuse it. I just wanted to hear her voice and respond to what she said earnestly. So it was really good. I just went on a walk and took the dog, and then just chatted to her whilst I was on the walk.
Did they just pause? When they say something and they ask you a question, and then you're like, did they just also pause with you for such a long period of time?
Yeah, they just hit those killer questions, like, and then just sit with it, and you're just like, oh.
No
And
going
like,
away from this.
so she goes, do you know what she hit me with as well, right? So we're building toward this point of like, we're layering stuff on top. So like, okay, how did you feel about that? Did that have an effect? Or what did you think about that? That must have been really difficult for you, this type of stuff, right? So she's softening me up with these little points. And then, I was talking about how like, most of the time that I have an issue, like upon waking, like every single time I have like a bit of an issue, I like wake up and I'm like, I take that massive breath of like, oh my God, what's going on? That's what kind of that was happening with me. And then she was talking about sleep and stress management and boundaries and stuff as we speak to our clients. And she was like, "Oh, do you recommend to your clients that you do boundaries and take your phone away and sleep and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do that all the time. It's really, really important." She's like, "Also, what are your boundaries?" I was like, "Yeah, well, phone kind of comes off at 8:30, but recently it's been like 10:30. Kind of been going to bed at 9, but generally now it's 11." And she's like, "Okay, so like, all of the stuff in the past, like, that must have been quite difficult for you." I was like, "Yeah, it was." She said, "But you've done pretty well to come through the last 3 months, 6 months." I was like, "Yeah, I think I've done pretty well." She's like, "Well, you need to give boundaries to yourself, like you're telling your clients." And I just dropped it like that, and I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, she just like softened me up, and then hit me with objectivity, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're actually right." So it's a wonderful thing because you can see that coming and peaking, and then she just drops the line, and yeah, it was very, very useful.
I think we should do this quite regularly. Nathan's therapy updates. What Nathan has learned.
Yeah.
That would be a very good series, to be fair. But no, I think like I never took mental health seriously until probably 5 years ago, to be honest. Um, and it was weird because no one else was speaking about mental health about 5 years ago, or even for a long period of time. You think about it, you'd hear in schools and you'd hear about like, yeah, listen, you can speak to, was it Talk to Frank or something like that?
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, do you remember that? So
Just Frank.
like you'd hear about it, but no one would ever take it seriously. Even adverts until like I basically read a book from Charlemagne the God. Nathan knows, and he had a book. Firstly, it was about his life story. And he talks about how therapy changed it, and then he had another book, which is another bestseller, talking about anxiety and mental health and therapy and why it's amazing. And he's now in his 50s, but he's talking about like therapy and why it's changed his life. And I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool to see. And then you can see in the book, it's with a doctor, and they talk about like loads of different strategies. It's not exactly the same thing, but that book has helped me a lot because it's like, wow, it's almost like you answer some of those questions, and then you can just journal it, and you can just have a look and just basically audit your day or audit your week or whatever you want to do with it. But I do believe that mental health um, availability or therapy is way more prevalent right now, in my opinion, this decade probably. And I think it's only going to improve throughout this decade, because more people are speaking about it. Like I said, Emily just said, more men are speaking about this. Previously 10 years ago, men weren't doing anything apart from just like, I don't know what we were doing, to be honest, but it was one that you
That
just
was it.
do you wouldn't talk
Like,
about feelings.
yeah.
It was FIFA and that's it.
Procreating, drinking beer.
And FIFA, yeah, that's
That's it.
pretty much it. But today's, I know we've gone in like a little tangent about mental health, and I think it's actually quite cool. We also wanted to discuss things like photo shoot, grooming. I know Emily had a question from a client or question from yesterday about grooming, and I think it's a big one, to be fair, because there's a lot of people that are going to be embarking in shoots anyway, regardless of lockdown or not this year. So let's start. Obviously, grooming. What are your couple of key tips, and then we can also discuss way before grooming and how to actually get into photo shoot condition, because there's no point talking about grooming if you're not in condition.
Yeah, so I was going to say the first thing is obviously to do the prep. Get yourself to a place where you are happy in how you look, or you've exceeded what you wanted to exceed and actually put yourself on the line there and pushed yourself to that point. As we talked before we press record, it's like there is two kinds of diets really. It's one to get you to a place where you're happy and lean, but then there's the photo shoot prep as well, which is it requires a little bit more, which I guess we can speak about in a second. But I guess I can speak about female grooming, and you guys can do the EC men part. No, I'm just kidding. I think the ladies, I mean, I want to give first, but I'm going to give a shout out to James Harknett, and we're going to put him in the show notes, because if you're in London and you do a photo shoot, he does fantastic tans. So having a tan for a photo shoot is, I mean, it will make you look more incredible, because a tan makes anyone look incredible, especially if you're a white girl or a white boy, and it makes you look leaner. So if you already are lean, it will actually make you look leaner. So super important. There is a reason why bodybuilders have the most ridiculous tan on stage. It's because it enhances their physique. In terms of grooming, I never did a lot of makeup or hair or nails, but I know that girls do, and it will become part of the the experience in a way, because it's your special day. Like, you can see it as your wedding day if you wanted to. It's like, how do you want to present yourself? How do you want those photos to be? um, Choosing what sort of setting you want to do it. It doesn't have to be a gym photo shoot. It could be, if for women, I mean for men as well, but like, you might want to go down the lingerie, or you want to do something that you feel like it's appealing to you. um, and just have fun with it, because ultimately it's like, one day you put all of that work in, and you're going to have those photos forever. So whatever you want that setting to be is going to be, for your own keepings. If you're a coach, maybe you want to have a gym shot because that's how you would market yourself. Because if you use those photos for marketing, you might want to think about, how will I sell myself in these photos? um, but if you are a client, or just a general population, and you just wanted to push yourself, I would just say, choose whatever makes you feel, that will make you feel confident and happy, and proud, and go with that. Um, so yeah, I don't think with grooming, I mean, hair, nails, skin, what outfit you're going to be wearing, are you going to be wearing tiny shorts? Are you going to be wearing something else? Like, how do you want to look? And yeah, I think that's really it. And obviously, you need lots of oil on the day as well, but that's about it. Um, have I missed something? I mean, you guys have also done photo shoots for ladies, but have I missed something? Obviously, you might want to remove some body hair if you have some, or not. It's your choice. Again, it's your body, your photo shoot, your choices, right? So
Yeah.
whatever's going to make you feel happy on that day is how you should be going for it.
Shave your armpits.
Or don't.
That pull up shot, loads of hair.
Yeah.
No, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there for most of the stuff. I think a large part about the time a lot of people have resistance to is like, oh, well, the day after I'm going into work, or something like that, or 2 days after I'm going into work. And the problem is that every picture you've ever seen on the beginning of Men's Health, or the pictures that you see that you attest to, or being subconsciously pushed towards over the years, have all come from people that have got fake tans. And to be honest, me personally, I love a good fake tan. I don't do it often because I'm in the UK now. But when I was in Dubai, I just got naturally brown because of being in Dubai, and it's amazing. It feels great. So if you, it just plumps up your skin. It does make you look leaner. And that goal on that specific day is for you to look as best as possible. The goal of that shoot isn't for you to represent your lifestyle going forwards. It may be a representation of a time in the year, or time in the point when you made that change. But on that day, you kind of do want to maximize it as best as possible, because the things that you have to consider is probably some things that you don't know, which is that the cameras will blur you out. So all that definition that you think you have when you look in the mirror, or when you look down and you see your abdomen, it doesn't really translate all the time onto photos, just because of the way that the light bounces, or the way that the background is coming. So you don't want to be put in a position, which I've seen before so many times, when people don't take your advice, is that they get there, they haven't done a tan, you take a picture and they've got a rippling six pack, and you take a picture and all you see is just a belly button and some flesh. And it's so unfortunate.
White people, like, this is obviously more applicable for white people. If
Yeah.
you are brown, or you have a skin color that's just a little bit more dark, it's going to be different for you. But if you're white, like, if you want to make that day the best day, like the absolutely best representation of what you could achieve, that is it. And important then to just mention that what you see is not what people look like all the time, and how we cannot compare ourselves to what we're looking at in a photo, because we're going there to show the absolute max, which is just a snapshot of a day. So yeah.
Because there's so many other things that you will do on shoot day that won't be representative of you just like walking down the street and being who you are, like pinpoint at certain angles so that you look better visually. Will always be the case. Like unfortunately, you take about 1,000 shots when you do go to a photo shoot, and you look good in about 25 of them. And that's not you as an individual or a representation of how hard you've worked. That is just nature of the accuracy and skill that goes into photography, which is you have such an appreciation for once you go and do a shoot. And then secondly, it's that everyone doesn't look great at different angles. Everyone's got different body shapes. Your level of leanness will dictate that too. And how you can move your body and how agile you are and taking direction is very, very important too. and you could be as lean. I've seen people that have come in very, very, very lean, like competition lean, and just not look great because they can't twist their body in the right specific angle, or they don't look great on camera because they're ugly or something. But I'm only messing. but
Just
there's so many different
so
values that you don't.
photo shoot if you want to do it, even if you have it not a such pretty face according to Nathan's standards, you should still go for what you want, right? But also that was a very important thing. When you're doing a photo shoot, you're not meant to feel comfortable. It's a really uncomfortable feeling to twist yourself to get those angles. So you don't actually look like that. Like you can make a skinny girl look like she has an ass if she can twist and do like an arch of her back. Like you can make anything look like something by the angles that you create. So important, which I learned from my first shoot, but also which I already know from being a dancer, is like anything you do in front of a camera or on stage has to be exaggerated to the max, because otherwise it's going to look small. So if you want it to be something incredible, it has to feel like you're exaggerating. You should feel like you're, I don't know, like imagine you go from talking, instead of talking you will be screaming to get that message out. And it's kind of what you need to do if you really want to get those photos to look the best that you can. So it should feel uncomfortable. If it doesn't really feel uncomfortable, you might not get exactly what you think it looks like, basically.
Yeah.
Also, maybe just have a look at certain poses you may want to do beforehand. I think that's also quite important. So like, don't just go into the shoot quite blindly, which sometimes people do, and I've seen it across, like, you know, with me doing shoots over the last couple of years, where I've just seen more people sometimes are like, yeah, I don't know what pose I'm going to do, just going to turn up, which is not a bad thing, because sometimes you can also overthink the process when you do start looking poses. Oh my god, I don't know like this person, I don't know like that person, which can actually be a good thing where you're just focusing on what you need to do. And by the way, is it me, but tans are a lot better these days than they were a couple of years ago?
I mean, I think at least the guy that I always, and I send all of my people to him, love him so much. um, like the tan actually looks pretty natural. You can obviously go for something that's a little bit darker, which I always would advise to do, but the tan itself looks really natural. Um, I mean, when I did my competition tan back in, well, 5 years ago almost, those tans are not designed to look natural. They're just designed to be fucking dark.
They
And
look good on stage, basically.
they look great. I mean, it doesn't really look great on stage either. Like I look back at those pictures and I'm like, okay. But I think for some reason my skin tends to actually absorb that and actually go really dark. I was looking at the girls next to me. Obviously, we all had the same tan, and I just went dark, and I went really dark, and I was like, shit. So it depends on you as well as at how you absorb and how that's like will reflect on your skin. But I think if you go to someone who does normal tanning, it's not the competition prep. Like it actually looks pretty natural. Like I loved my tan, and it looked super natural even afterwards. And you actually just feel great because you look fresher. So
Yeah,
yeah.
what he's got like a couple of ones here. It says the South Beach, the Doha. Is it James Harknett, right? That's the one.
Yeah, it's in the W Hotel.
Yeah.
But he will come to your house, man. He just pops a tent up whenever you are and just comes, and he's a fucking artist. Like he like
He's
spray.
pizzazz, bro. Yeah. He's like so
Like,
flashy.
I need to make sure we tag him in this show. Like honestly, like it, and it's an investment. But even if you go to his place in the W Hotel here in London, he has a really good assistant there as well. Which he was the first guy I used, and like they're just incredible, and they're so lovely and sweet. And anything that you do is like you're propping yourself up, and so this is kind of like the experience. Like I mean, I'm not a girly girl, so I don't really do a lot of like. I never do my nails. I will just like file them myself, or at some point I'm like clippers, and I don't dye my hair anymore. I don't really do these things. So whenever it's like a photo shoot, it's like, wow, I'm doing all of these things, and it's special. So part of the experience is just to like feel really good, like at the end of it. So yeah.
They get official pictures, life-changing pictures, to be honest. When I say official, just they're also life-changing for a lot of people who have done shoots. They may be listening to this right now. The first thing is always get ready for a photo shoot. So like, you know, don't get in when, like, I've cancelled some shoots before when someone's not ready, to be honest. And you know, Nathan, me and you've got a rule, which is like how many people actually do shoots after, or if they rebook it. I think it's maybe from what I know, it's maybe 1 out of 20. So don't try and like beat that odd, basically. Like do the best you can first time round. You know, if we have to rebook, well, we may do it, but obviously those are the numbers. those are the odds that it will never ever happen again, purely because of what's going on in, let's say, life or whatever. And then once you've done that, I think for men, grooming is typically like get a decent haircut. Especially like obviously if you've not cut your hair throughout, let's say the shoot prep or whatever, you don't want to go in there looking like a hobo, beard is like all the way up here, etc. So get a haircut. Um, Body hair, it depends. Like if you're a hairy guy, a wax would be good, like maybe a week before, and then maybe just trim. So like I know I did that and it worked wonders, but even then I still got like loads of little, you get those little red spots, which is quite annoying. Um, but and then if you're not hairy, you can probably just maybe trim it off through clippers, or actually just, yeah, clippers would do. And then obviously a tan. So I'm Asian. I actually didn't have a tan for my shoot purely because it was like summertime. So I was out and about and I was like getting a natural tan. But I think this time around, I think I would probably experiment something, just to see how it looks. Because like from here says the Doha, it looks pretty decent, especially for olive, Asian or dark skin tones. I'm like, that's me. So I'm gonna go for that one. But yeah, that's pretty much it from like a male grooming standpoint. Nate, any
Yeah,
additional things?
just a bugbear from me. Just don't be the guy that goes half in on the shaving part.
Yeah, like arms are not shaved or
Yeah, this. Oh my gosh, this. I've seen so many times when guys have not shaved their arm hair, but then shave their like body hair, and it looks like you're just holding two carpets, put it on like a bare rug in the middle. So like, just get everything done in one go. Like it sucks if you're conscious about that. You think that you're gonna get some stick. Like, but at the end of the day, it's for you rather than anyone else. And do your legs. Like, as much if you are going to wear shorts, you don't want to be like baby up top and then just like bare on the calves. So if you're just going to go all in, go and do it all in one go, and get them all done.
thing is, you don't get stick, and the reason for this is because your pictures will end up looking good. I think a lot of people actually like if you're worried about your friend giving you stick about hair, just worry about getting like amazing before and after shots, and then they're just gonna ask you about how the hell did you firstly get in shape, versus oh my god, you ain't got no hair, mate. What's going on at the moment? Because I've had that people tell me exact same thing. We're like, oh man, I'm gonna get loads of stick because firstly, men don't shave their chest or whatever. I'm like, bullshit. And then after it's they never get a stick. It's mainly like 10 of their friends sign up instead. That's what typically tends to happen, right?
Well, the majority of people, they actually I've had a lot of people that shave it and then just keep it off because they get to see more. Like, as you do
Yep.
if you shave your chest there, your chest gets more defined and it looks more shapely, and then you're like, oh, I could do with this every day now. So then you just keep it nice and trim and proper. I wish that was the case for me, but I just do it as I get leaner. So I either go down when I've had like a good week. I'm just, oh yeah, I'm feeling it now. Get towards the 63 mark. I'm like, time to shave. Here we go.
Start posing as well, right? And you start
Yeah, yeah.
posing a bit more, and you're like, well, I'm looking tired today. This is good. Um,
No, but
Prep
it's true
starts.
also if you spend X months or weeks actually prepping for something, wanting to look at your absolute best, and your biggest hurdle is to get over yourself because you don't want to shave, like you're actually undercutting yourself quite dramatically here. And it's, yeah, sometimes we have to just let the ego down and go, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this best shot.
I think it's the unknown, if that makes sense. Because like, if you're the only person in your friend circle that's ever done this, there's going to be a bit like, oh, I don't really know, like, should I do this, should I not do this? Like, if you've had a friend who's done a shoot and they said to you, like, look, shave this, shave that, majority of the time they're going to listen to that person because it's a close trustee, it's a friend. So I get it from that viewpoint, but yeah, I 100% agree. Like, don't ever undercut yourself, because ultimately those are the pictures you're going to look back on 5 years time. If you may be doing that shoot, that's the only time you may ever do it in
Yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah.
So just remember, it's like like I said, it's like a wedding, literally. Hopefully you only
Sometimes
get married once.
Yeah, yeah. Probably doing more of those than you'll be photo shoots.
when I went to my client's photo shoot, my female client, I brought in the tiny shorts because I was like, I know that she's gonna need these. And she looked incredible. Like, her shorts would have been a little bit longer. It would have actually taken away some of the illusions about having glutes and like. So I brought the shorts in, brought some more props, and she looked absolutely incredible. And then at the end of it, she was like, I actually didn't, because it's also the fear of being judged in the moment. I think when you do your first photo shoot, and if you do it in a gym and there will be people there training, you will feel like people are constantly like going to judge you or look at you and like have, I don't know, judgments. But then once you're in that moment, you actually forget about these people. I think that, at least from my experience and also the what I've asked my clients. So um, yeah, having fun and then also just saying, okay, cool. It's just my experience, right? And yeah, people around you, they will look, but then they won't just keep staring. Although it was kind of funny in my last shoot.
Go on.
There was literally two men, whenever they were like doing the set and then they sat and rest, they just like sat down on the bench and they just looked at me doing my fucking poses. Like, and they were having a really good time, but it was like, I don't know, fuck it, just let them enjoy that shit, you
But
know.
you're also at zone gym as well, right? Like where it's
Yeah.
like hammer strength gym. It's like you can't say shit to those kind of dudes, right? They're just there like, what's going on?
Yeah, it was funny. And it was just funny. I'm like, honestly, if you get a fucking testosterone boost from that shit, I'm just happy for you. So you can do your PBs now. So, there's a reason. I heard that there's like an actual, I don't know where I heard this from, and this might not actually be the truth, but they always put the ladies' changing room at the far end of a gym, because if a woman walks by a man who's like trying to lift something fucking heavy, he will actually have a testosterone boost and actually be able to hit more weight. So, and in any gym that I've walked into and I'm thinking about, it's like, yeah, actually, it makes sense. The females are always on the fucking far end of the gym. Makes
You have
sense,
to do the
right?
whole walk.
Yeah. And I remember when I was like young and a little bit shy, and I like had to walk through, and it's like really intimidating as a woman. You like walking through the free weight area. I was like, oh my God.
But you're just giving everyone 5 mg of
Yeah, I
testosterone
was like
boost.
throwing out those PBs everywhere, I was like,
Yeah.
cool. You're welcome. Didn't know at the time, but I'm pretty sure I've helped a lot of men with their gains over the years. So,
Salute to that.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Anything.
yeah, I think photo shoots for a lot of people, like you may be listening to this, you may be thinking, actually, I don't want to do photo shoots. But like one thing I'd always say to people who do photo shoots, it's a great end to fat loss. And fat loss for that moment. So it's your checkpoint. And the reason I say this because it's never quite the same taking pictures just at home and then saying to yourself, oh, is that really it? Like, am I done? Because you always chase for more. And I realize this with people who do photo shoots, they're done. They literally say, yep, you know what? I've closed a chapter with fat loss and now I'm ready to go for my next phase. Whereas people at home, I've seen this loads of times. Can I go for another 2 kilos? I know we wrapped up last week, but is it right if I go for to the end of the month? Because of whatever reason, or because of this. So I've always noticed that like photo shoots are a great way, number one, to stay accountable to another, like someone else, which is a photographer. And number two, it's a great way to really end fat loss versus like where you do it at home, you're always questioning like, could I do a bit better? Could I do more? Whereas a photo shoot, you're not going to be like, can I do that next week? Just doesn't happen. So
It's the boundaries element
yeah,
plus the taking you out of your own bubble. So like you see yourself every single day in the mirror. And like when I was in Dubai when I did the shoot, I got really really lean. Last 6 weeks, couldn't really see the difference between my pictures or myself. Like I didn't feel it. Like my abs looked a little bit better, but if you looked at the pictures, I dropped like 6 kilos and I look completely different in pictures. Like everything was like veins across my abs, running across my glutes were in whatever. But I didn't know any different just by going in the same mirror every single week, walking the same walk I did, wearing the same clothes that I did. You don't know. And the best thing that you can do is if it is like habitual lifestyle change that you're after, you need that. It needs to be some level of pedestal, but takes you outside of that comfort of day-to-day living to make you realize how much you've actually changed. Because unfortunately, the only other way that happens for most people is when they start eating like idiots again and they gain weight and then they realized how much they lost in the first place. They were like, oh, I'm all up 4 kilos. I look completely different than I did before. And it's that disparity that snaps people back in. But you don't want that disparity because that's a hard, arduous task to then bring back your mental space, mental headspace, your lifestyle, your ability to not fall into yo-yo dieting and binge related patterns. You have the ability to put yourself on a pedestal outside of your normal day-to-day, flip that, and then move into your next phase. That's why I would always say that even if you aren't doing a photo shoot, go and celebrate it by going for a meal, going to see family, go outside, celebrate it in one way, shape, or the other. And even if it's not about your physical side of things, it's just like end of a deadline, end of a date, then you can close the chapter on it, like you said, K-Mac, and you can move on. But if you're just in your mundane stuff, and let's say your diet finishes on the Wednesday, Thursday you're still doing the same shit, and there's no reason for you to feel gratification. There's no real for you to like stop and pause unless you practice it, and it'll be very hard for you to put a boundaries and a closing chapter on that old habits that kind of you've dieted away effectively.
Yeah.
100%.
Any final closing words?
I think next week it'd be good if we dive deep into like post photo shoot and just reverse dieting in general, post fat loss. I think for a lot of people it would be really good, because we've talked about like essentially fat loss now. For a lot of them, people are going to embarking in this new phase, and I think it'd be great to discuss that. So stay tuned for next week's episode.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you, guys.